video, we're going to continue talking about texturizing. Instead of things that we can find around our house, like in the last video where we used shelf liner or bubble pack or paper towels or plastic wrap, we're going to use some tools that they're actually not tools. They're natural sea sponges or human-made sponges that you can use. These are actually for painting, but you could use the square or the rectangular sponges that you get for the kitchen. You could even use makeup sponges. So I want to wet down my palette, get my pigments activating. And one thing you can do is, let me clean my brush. You could put some watercolor on your paper and then immediately take the sponge and move it around and texturize it, kind of like we did in the last video lesson. But something that's really cool, I'm gonna grab more of, I'm getting a lot of water in this blue here. This is my Prussian blue, and I am mixing it in this center well. You know what? I'm going to wet down my sponge. You can do it dry, but it's better if you wet the sponge. They hold water well, and so if you wet it down, it will absorb the watercolor even better. So these are great for different textures that you want to create. You could do clouds, you could do trees, you could do flowers. In a later lesson, I'm going to show you how to do a flower with a natural sea sponge and some masking fluid. But I just wanted to show you, let me just squirt each of these down. I want to show you how the different sponge types, let's get us a purple going here. You can't see that. I'm mixing my magenta with some of this Prussian blue I already had. Now this is a finer sponge that I'm using. In fact, it could be a little wetter. You could actually soak these. So these give you a nice subtle effect. Let's see, what other colors? Let's do a red. We'll use this one. This one's a little bit more concentrated. It doesn't have, this one is the one we're going to use for a flower. I said red, but I dipped into my pink. So, where did I put it? I'm getting myself confused. So I'm going to just take this one and dab around in this pink to show you that effect. Then I'm going to mix some of this pink in my well here. Let's do it in the camera shot so that you can see it. And I'm going to wet it down a little more so it will absorb. So I'm just squirting. You could dip it in water if you have a little basin around. So because this one has much finer holes in the sponge, you're not getting that big of an effect. Let's try one of these that has bigger holes. I'm going to come over here to the blue. So I like that look. Because of the bigger holes, you get a lot more texture. And then, of course, we've got this little makeup sponge, and it's very, very fine. So I'm going to dip it straight in the paint. You could actually use it to move around your paint. You're not going to get that much texture from it unless you move it around. So you see the difference between the bigger holes in the sponge and the finer sponges. So these are both man-made sponges. This would be more similar to what you would have in the kitchen. This is what you would use for makeup. So if you've got some of these laying around, grab them and play around with them, creating textures in your watercolor. Just stamp it around. You could combine the colors. Oh, I like that. Make little patterns. You can use the edge. You could use the tip. Just play around and create absolutely nothing except a mess, but you're having fun experimenting with all of these different textures. And I will show you probably in the next, not the next lesson, but the one after that, how to create some other things with these sponges rather than just random abstract texture. These can be used to create some really beautiful landscape pieces or florals.